What's up, guys? Yes. So you read the title, or you came from a short because you're looking to beat Bloodbath.
Let's go!
Well, in this video, I'm going to give you a comprehensive guide on how you can beat Bloodbath. This level took me 4 months and over 20,000 attempts to beat, so I feel like I'm pretty qualified in telling you how to play the level. Now, there's a couple general points I should cover before I go into general details. The first is that playing from zero is very different than playing from any other position in a start position switcher. If I had to put a number on it, I would probably say that Bloodbath almost doubles in difficulty when going from zero. This makes it unique, as other levels in my opinion have a much smaller difficulty increase when going from zero. Because of this, it leads me into my second point, which is that you have to do big runs in a start pause before you start going from zero. To put it in perspective, it took me 17 individual streams before I beat Bloodbath. But by the 4th or 5th stream, I had already done 25 to 100. That pretty much explains just how grueling the process of going from zero is. Oh, and a start position switcher is a practice tool which allows you to start at any point in the level. If you don't know what that is, you probably shouldn't be going for Bloodbath. But hey, by all means, you do you, and you can download one on either Geode or just use the one built into Mega Hack. Anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the practice run so I can show you exactly how you can beat Bloodbath. Welcome to the first part of Bloodbath. This is the part that almost everyone knows because everybody can get to like 3, maybe 4%, but not too many people can get further than that. All that you need to do for this section is just make sure you gain enough height here and then start falling early so that you can fall in between these two spikes here. Then you're going to want to hit this yellow orb so that you flip your gravity, and then you're going to want to click the second orb up there, which will be a blue orb. It's a blind timing, but it does get consistent because it's at the start of the level and you do it a gajillion times before you beat the level. Here's what the orbs look like if you are wondering. This is the yellow orb that you don't want to click, and this is the blue orb that you do want to click. Also, it's music synced. Then you're finally at the first part where most people die if they are a noob. What you want to do for this first section is to click 4 times before you enter this yellow portal. Then you're going to want to do a sort of hold after this yellow portal because you'll end up a little high, but it works out because this spike is slightly lower than normal. Then you're going to want to do about 7-ish clicks between this yellow portal and the blue and mini portal. Once you get to the blue and mini portal, you're going to want to do 3 clicks quite fast. It's like a doom. On the 3rd click, you want to hold so that you fly upwards this direction. The reason you need to make sure you hold on this 3rd click is because you have to get low enough here so that you enter the ball portal sort of around here and land early on this block. If you don't, you won't be able to clear this spike here and will always die. Also, sometimes you won't even be able to click early enough here and you'll just end up hitting this spike. Once you've reached this ball part, you're going to want to click 2 times quite quickly so that you buffer this click right here. When you buffer this click, you pass these spikes 100% of the time, as opposed to not 100% of the time. Also, when I do this, I actually click on this blue pad, so I do 3 clicks, because it makes it more consistent for me. Would I recommend doing this? No. But hey, consistency is key. You're then going to click another 3 times, all which I believe you can buffer, and then you will land on this block here, of which you will not click, and you will fall onto the block that is right here. If you do this part correctly, it will be either a 5 or 6 click spam, depending on if you click on the blue pad or not. Sometimes, if you do buffer everything, you can end up dying to this spike right here. I would recommend just doing this part a lot and forcing the consistency. Once you land on this block, you're going to do another 6 clicks, but the 6th is technically not necessary, but I'll show you why. The 6th click that I'm talking about is to just start holding before you even enter this portal here. The reason that I say this is because you cannot hold on the 5th click because your ship will not activate. I like to just go ahead and start holding as early as possible, but you can really start at any point. Once you reach the ship, you're going to hold from the previous section and then hold all the way until about right here-ish, in which case you're going to release and then do a small click inside this blue portal to get you over this spike right here. After you've passed that spike, you're then going to fly upwards and kind of readjust yourself and fly straight through this corridor here. Once you reach the end of this corridor though, you're going to do one last click right about here, just enough to get you over this spike. You're then going to fall all the way into this yellow portal and click once. Doing a small click on this portal gives you just enough elevation to get over this spike, but not too much to where you hit this one. You're then going to fly downwards into the next choke. Once you've gotten to this gap right here, there's two ways that you can do it. One is to just do one long hold, or the other is to do a series of holds, in which case it's a little bit more controlled. There's not really a specific right way to do that part, so just do whatever feels best to you. You're then going to want to clear this spike, and then click inside this blue portal to get you going upwards this way. What I like to do after hitting that blue portal is doing 3 clicks here, and you just want to get over this spike, and then you want to hold into this slope because it's going to take you down all the way into the ball portal. Then you've reached this ball section. For each click in the ball section, you want to click about 1.5 tiles before the spike. What I mean by this is that there is a spike right here on this last block. You then want to go over 1 tile, and then about halfway, which is right about here. If you click right about here when your ball is centered, you're going to make it almost every time. Now, if you want to look at it in a more exact manner, technically you would click right about here. But with the amount of reaction time that it takes the brain to click, clicking 1.5 tiles is almost perfect every single time. For platforms where there is not a spike, you usually want to click as late as possible or on the later side. For example, on this tile, you'd click right about here-ish, but not as late as possible for this one. An example of one in which you'd wait as late as possible, though, is right here. Because there's such a large gap in between, you have to wait until the edge of this before you can click. And then another example of clicking 1.5 tiles early is this one. You go over 1 block and about right here, and that's the exact timing of which you should click. Then on this one, once again, on the last tile, you just click right about here, and you make it every single time. You have then made it to the hardest part of Bloodbath, which is Michigan. For this first cube, there's a little trick that I like to use if you play with particles on. What I do is I wait until I see these particles come up, and then I jump. With the amount of time that it takes for the brain to see these particles and then react, it almost makes it perfect for timing these triple spikes. If you don't like that method, then I would suggest just timing it. It's really not that hard to get these correct. If you wanted to get swaggy with it though, you can actually land inside these 2 spikes and skip this blue pad entirely. This is obviously much harder of a timing, but it is possible if you wanted to do it. Once you've made it to the ship portal, there's actually 2 ways that you can do this transition. The first is to jump into the portal and then hold to get into the straight fly. And the second is to wait until you hit this ship portal and then fly upwards into the straight fly. They're about similar in difficulty, but I would say that falling into it is ever so slightly easier, only because I believe it's easier to enter a straight fly when holding into it rather than falling into it. Also, there's not really a trick to doing the rest of this straight flying, you're just gonna have to get good at straight flying. Once you made it to this ball portal, you're going to want to click right about here before each spike. When you click right about here, you make it through the spikes every time. If you wait until the middle, you will die to this spike, and if you click at this line, you will die to this spike. Therefore, you have to do right about in between, which is right here. Then you've made it to the UFO, which is in my opinion the hardest part of Michigan. In order to make this part possible, you have to click early in this UFO. You can't click too early though, otherwise you might 1, switch your gravity, or 2, die to this spike here. If you don't click early though, the last click is not possible, which is a frame perfect. Even though it is a frame perfect, it seems that the earlier you click on the first click, the easier that this click will be. It technically is still possible if you click late, just absurdly more difficult than if you click early. For this click though, you do have to click late and right before this cube portal, and then hold as you'll jump over this triple spike every single time. For these triples, you pretty much just want to wait until you're 1 tile before this spike every single time. These triples seem to be easier than the other triples though, so I wouldn't worry about these too much. Once you've made it to this wave part, you can do pretty much any method that you want to pass the part. The first method is to spam, in which case I don't really love that method. The second method is to do 0 double clicks, in which case I don't really like that method too, but it's more consistent than spamming. The third is to do 2 double clicks, the first at this spike and then at this spike, of which case is probably the most consistent, but it's not the method I use. And the last method is to just do 1 double click, in which case I do mine at this spike right here, which lines me up for the rest of the wave. The only thing that is absolutely necessary to know is that you have to always be falling when you're entering this cube portal. If you're still clicking in the wave while you're entering this cube, you will 100% die to this spike. There is no exception. Once you made it to this part, there's only 1 click that you have to do, and it is in the middle of this pink orb. If you buffer, you will die to this spike, and if you click too late, then you'll die to this block right here. You've then made it to Aasium's part, which could be considered a break in the level. All you need to do is kind of just fly through these spikes here. There's not really a trick to it. Then once you get to this saw, you just do one click to make you go over, and then you're gonna do another click here when you fall to make yourself go into this wave section. As you can see by the hitboxes, there's a lot of swag routes in this part if you wanna look cool. If you don't really care about that and just want the easiest path, then just make sure to follow these lines right here. You can see that they're kind of visible by these transparent brick looking things. Then once you made it to this big portal, you're going to wave in between these spikes and then do a double click right here. And then you're going to fly upwards. You're not going to do a double click for this part and just let yourself fall in between here and then click here and then let yourself fall as you enter this UFO portal. This is another case in which you have to be falling going into the portal. Then once you reach this UFO part, you're going to want to click once right about here so that you align yourself for these two pink orbs, in which case you're going to hit both of them. Once you fall down from the blue portal, you're then going to do a double click right here so that you align yourself for this pink orb, in which case you're going to hit this pink orb, and then you're going to fall into this yellow portal, which is going to flip you upside down. You're going to do 2 clicks after you fall through this yellow portal, one being right here and the second being about here-ish. You don't really want it to be a double click because you want to make sure that you can clear this spike, and then you're going to want to do 3 clicks, in which case one of them is on this pink orb. Depending on the pace of those 2 clicks after you fall into that yellow portal, you may need to slow down your 3 clicks that are right here. If you don't slow down your clicks enough, you may end up dying to this saw here, but if you slow down your clicks too much, you may end up dying to this spike or this spike. Once you fall though, you're then going to do another 3 clicks, which start right here, and then it's going to take you into this blue portal right here. I should also mention that these 3 clicks are a lot slower than the other 3, which are right here. Then once you fall into this blue portal, you're going to then hit these pink orbs late so that you don't hit these spikes right here. Once you've made it into the ship part, you've made it to Crack, which is often considered to be the second hardest part of Bloodbath. I don't think it's as hard as it's cracked up to be though. But I'll get into that in a minute. First, what you're going to want to do is click either once or twice, depending on how much momentum you have from your UFO. I usually click twice, and it's just little light clicks just to give you enough momentum to get over this hump, because you're then going to want to fall down. Then once you're in this section, you're going to want to start holding right about where I am right now, because you need to make it through this gap right here. You're then going to enter this yellow portal, in which case you're going to want to click right as you enter this yellow portal to make sure that you get over this spike here. After you click this yellow portal, you can hold and bonk your head here. I don't do that, but it can be a way to align yourself for this straight fly right here, which actually brings me to my topic of how I make Crack easier than most people think. You see, there's a lot of space in Crack right before you enter a straight fly. To make Crack easier than it actually is, you need to make use of this space to start straight flying before you actually go through the spikes. The reason for this is that you give your brain enough time to adjust your straight flying if it is a little bit off. If you don't do this method and you're off a little bit while you're in the spikes, instead of having time to adjust, you just die. By using this method though, you can actually make straight flying a lot easier than it seems. This is actually the method that I used for Crack, and it was honestly a disappointment if I ever died there. That's just how consistent using this method can actually make Crack. Once you've flown through this, all you need to do is hit this blue portal, and then use this space to align yourself for the next straight fly. By using the space to adjust your straight fly, once again, you make this part very easy. After you pass this straight fly, you're then going to want to land on this block right here. You are then going to want to hit this yellow orb on the later half of it to avoid this spike and hold for just long enough to get you over this spike. Then you have another straight fly, of which case this is the only situation where you don't have time to adjust your straight fly before you enter it. Thankfully though, the entrance to this straight fly is actually quite easy, as you just click once right here. Once you've made it through that straight fly, you just want to keep straight flying through these spikes, and then fall down right about here. For each of these structures, you're going to want to click right about here and then hold until right about here. This gets you just over this spike and then ends up aligning yourself perfectly for this next structure to do the same thing again. Once you've gotten to this structure, you actually need to click once on this arrow to align yourself to click here for this structure. You're then going to hold from about here to here and then release, and then hold from about here to about here-ish, and then you're going to do one click in the middle of this structure right here. Then once you've passed crack, you have this click right here, which is actually harder than it seems, but it's pretty easy. You just want to make sure that you don't click too late so that you don't hit this block right here. I actually did die to this click a lot, but that's just because I'm stupid. You're then going to want to click this yellow orb late and then this blue orb pretty much in the middle. You don't want to click the blue orb too late so that you don't die to this block right here though. Once you've entered this UFO, you're going to want to do 3 clicks here, and then 4 clicks right as you enter this yellow portal. Then you're going to want to let yourself fall slightly and click right about here, and then click right about here. The reason you want to be low is that it sets you up better for the clicks after you enter this big portal. What I mean is that after you enter this big portal, which is right off screen right here, you're going to have to click here. And if you're too high, you'll end up hitting this saw. So you have to be lower. Then you're going to click here, and then once in each portal. On this blue portal though, you're going to want to wait slightly. Then once you're here, you're going to do a click pattern of 3, then 2, then 1. And then you're going to be in the ball section. The timing for these clicks is about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. For this ball section, you're going to want to click right about here-ish so that you don't hit these 2 invisible spikes, which are right here and right here. You're then going to click right here and then click this pink orb. Pretty much the only hard click in this part is the first click. Once you've made it past the first click, it's pretty easy. You're then going to click on this platform and then fall off of this platform and hit this yellow orb. Once you hit this yellow orb, you're then going to hit this blue orb right here and then this yellow orb right here. Once you've hit this yellow orb that's about right here normally, you're then going to fall into this triple click, in which case you click all 3 of these orbs, and then you're going to fall into this yellow portal right here. For this spam, all you're going to do is click 5 times very quickly, and then stop. You're then going to buffer this yellow orb, and then buffer the 2 pink orbs that come right after. You want to make sure that you wait till you pass this blue orb before buffering the pink orbs though. Then you've made it to Etser, which is widely considered to be the last choke point of the level. First, you're going to do 4 clicks, once here, once on this blue orb, then once here, and then once on this blue orb. You're then going to fall after this blue orb and click once right about here so that you don't hit this block right here and that you don't hit these spikes up here. You're then going to click once on this pink orb and try to click it a little bit earlier. Then you're going to fall into this section right here, in which case you're going to click once right here and then once inside this portal here. Once you've made it to this part, you want to make sure not to click this yellow orb and click right here instead. The important thing to know about this part is that it's not actually a triple click, it is a double click and then a delayed single click. What I had originally done for this click pattern is a triple click right here. One is that you can either end up clicking before you enter this blue portal, in which case you'll just die 100% of the time. The other case is which you'll click very late in this yellow portal, and then you'll actually end up being way higher than you're supposed to be. If you're newer to the game though, it's actually very easy to mistake this for a triple click and end up getting in a bad habit. Once you've entered this ship portal, you're going to want to click once right here to adjust yourself, and then once right here to stabilize so that you can fall onto these fake spikes here. Also, it may be easier for most to do it in 1 click, but I prefer doing it in 2. Then you're going to let yourself slide off of these blocks and fly upwards through this corridor. You then just have to straight fly and then end up in this triple speed section. You're going to click right about here-ish to give yourself enough momentum to pass this little hump, and then you're going to fall into this section, in which case you're going to start holding right about here to recorrect yourself. You're then going to end up in this UFO portal, in which case you click all 3 of these orbs, and then click this ship portal right here. This ship portal click is particularly hard because you have to click just hard enough to make yourself high enough to enter this blue portal, but not hard enough so that you hit this spike here. If you do it correctly, you'll end up being able to enter this straight fly perfectly. There's not really anything that I can tell you to make this click easier. You're just gonna have to practice it a lot. Once you get into this blue portal though, all you have to do is straight fly into the next section. Then you've entered this ball section, in which case you click 3 times, the third being hitting this yellow orb. Once you land here though, you click 5 times, being 1, 2, which is late, 3, 4, and then 5, which is on an invisible platform, which is right about right here. Then once you land here, you click another 4 times, being 1, 2, 3, and then 4. You want to make sure that you're able to buffer this blue orb because you don't want to die to this invisible block that is right about here when you're entering this UFO portal. Once you enter this UFO portal, there is actually 2 methods that you can do to pass this part. The first is to click 4 times. The first 2 clicks are right here and then on this pink orb. The second 2 are late here and then in this blue portal right about here. You then have to let yourself fall into the yellow portal. Then you end off the part by hitting this yellow orb right here. The problem with this method is that it can be slightly inconsistent and can feel a little unfair because you'll sometimes die to these structures right here, but it's unexpected. It may seem like there's not really a reason for you dying, but you'll still die anyways. This is why I actually found a second click pattern, which involves 5 clicks instead of 4, and makes it to where you pretty much consistently do it every single time. Without this method, I would just randomly die here, but with it, I pass it every single time. The click pattern starts off the same by doing 2 clicks, one being right here, and then another being in this pink orb. It then changes though, as you want to click right here before this yellow portal, and then again right here. You then want to make your 5th click happen right about here, and you want to delay it so that it's late. This will align you properly every single time to enter this yellow portal without hitting either this spike or this spike. In my opinion, this is the best way to do this part, and it gives it almost a 100% pass rate. You then want to end off the part by clicking this yellow orb, and then want to hold as soon as you enter this wave portal so that you go upwards this direction. You're then going to want to spam through this part, and then spam through this part as well. You do want to make sure that you stop your spam a second though, so that you can align yourself properly to get over this spike. You want to make sure though that you don't accidentally hold too long so that you don't hit this block right here. You then want to continue spamming until you enter this cube portal, but want to stop right before so that you don't accidentally jump off the platform, which is there to help you stabilize as you enter the ship portal. Once you enter this ship portal, you're going to want to do 4 clicks in this corridor, with the first 2 being small clicks, the third being slightly longer than the first 2, and then the 4th being on this yellow orb. You're then going to click this pink orb and hold so that you enter this yellow portal and continue flying this way. And then you're going to release and then hit this yellow orb and then hold so that you enter this blue portal right here. After you hit this blue portal, which is just off screen, you're going to continue holding so that you enter this straight fly right here and continue straight flying as you enter the cube and the last part of the level. For this cube section, you're going to hit these orbs right about in the middle and then make sure to buffer this blue orb. From there, you're going to hold just long enough for your mini cube to jump off of this platform, but not your big cube. The reason you can't buffer these first orbs is because your big cube will die as your mini cube will not hit this gravity orb in time. You are now on the last part of Bloodbath, and possibly the easiest part of it. First, you're going to flip your gravity so that you land on this platform, of which you will fall off of onto this platform, and click later so that you align yourself into the middle of this blue orb. You will then fall onto this pillar, of which case you will buffer, and then buffer this UFO click. You then will hit this blue orb, of which you cannot hold, and then fall into this ship portal. You cannot hold into the ship portal because you will die to this spike, so you have to start holding ever so slightly after you enter it. You then want to enter this upside down straight fly, of which case you will have to press a little bit harder on the straight fly because it's upside down in slow speed. Once you've done this straight fly, you're then going to reverse your gravity on this platform so that you hit this blue pad, and then you're going to reverse your gravity again so that you land on this platform, and then reverse your gravity again so that you land on this platform, and then reverse your gravity again so that you land on this platform right here. This is actually a fake block and you'll land inside of it. Oh, also something to note about this platform is that you have to click late, you can't just buffer it. Once you made it inside of this platform, you're then going to click here so that you land onto this block right here, and reverse your gravity immediately so that you land onto this block right here. You're then going to click late so that you can make it to that platform right there. It's a lot easier than it looks, and yes, you can actually make that. Then once you're on this platform, you reverse your gravity to land on this platform and immediately reverse your gravity to land inside here, of which case you will immediately click so that you land on this block and then fall onto the G in G-Boy. You then want to click late so that you land onto this platform, and then click late again so that you avoid this spike. Then once you're here, you can do this a bunch of different ways by letting yourself hit this blue pad and falling into this cube. You can also reverse your gravity to land on this pillar early and then jump late to do the Michigan route, or you can just click early to land on this pillar and then fall, which is actually the method that I use to beat Bloodbath. In an ideal world, you would probably land on this pillar and click as late as possible to attempt the Michigan route, and if that fails, you then jump over the triple spike. That would essentially give yourself 2 different ways that you can complete the level and 2 chances. Realistically though, I would just pick one, and either way, the triple spike is pretty easy. Yeah. And that is how you beat Bloodbath. In my opinion, Bloodbath is not nearly as difficult as people make it seem, but it's still a difficult challenge nonetheless. Anyways, thank you so much for watching until the end, and I hope this helps as you try to beat Bloodbath. If you found this useful, then please make sure to go drop a like and subscribe to my channel. If you want to check out some other videos, I have other extreme demon guides as well as my completion of Bloodbath. Good luck though, and happy grinding.